started writing about guns, you tweeted to me, and I had no idea who you were, but all these people on Twitter were going, "It's the black man with a gun, it's the black man with a gun, Emily, you have to do his show." And you're such a big celebrity in the gun world, which I wasn't in before. So tell me where you even got this name, Black Man with a Gun. What's the history?
It started off in '91. I wanted to become the community activist, the firearms instructor for the regular person, but I had a handicap. I was trained by some of the best people in the world, but my employer said...
Your employer was?
U.S. government. And they said, you can moonlight, but you can't tell anything about us. So I thought, oh, lovely. That just kills my whole marketing strategy. I look a lot younger than I am, so nobody's going to pay me any attention.
Right.
So because I'm a student of business, and this bus just happened to go by saying two guys in a truck, and I thought, yeah, that's who I'll become. I'll become the black man with a gun. And it's a buzzword, it's funny, it will scare some people, it's enough of a shock, but after they learn about me and talk to me, they'll find out I'm not a boogeyman. It kind of backfired too, because I scared like most of my customers that I wanted to talk to. If you're in the gun world, you laugh. If you're not in the gun world, you cringe. That's a topic, and it's been used in history, like the Nat Turners, the people who will kill you in your sleep, the thug. It's a black man with a gun. I have all the negative words all together, but my thing was, if I can do this long enough, when it's no longer a threat, I can let it go. I'll succeed. So in 1998, I started writing this book called Black Man with a Gun, and all it was a primer for the new person shooting, and I try to put it to a African-American slant to show some history, to show how just messed up we are.
We've talked about that, and it's so interesting to me, sort of the history of these gun laws being used to keep blacks from getting guns, and how even that is applicable in some states still today.
I was oblivious to it until I started trying to get into business. When I first went to the gun shop and had somebody say, you know, we don't shoot, and I thought, I've been shooting all my life. My grandmother had a gun in the house. Right. We have all this stuff. Where are you coming from? They said, well, we don't do that. So I thought, all right, let me go ask a couple of people. And I went to a couple of uncles that hunt, a couple of uncles I knew were in the National Rifle Association. They happened to be black. And each one of them gave me a little bit more history that made me hungry for knowledge. So the next thing I knew, I was in the library. I was pulling out everything I could find. I was online researching. I was calling people up. And then I got my mind blown when I found out that from 1630s, from this place being a colony, the very first gun control laws were for the Chinese that were here as indentured slaves and servants, and the newly freed and the black people that were here. So almost every 30 years since 1630, there's a new gun control act, and it's always put toward a person of color, some different group. And all the way to the 1920s, it was Italian immigrants in New York City. The Sullivan Law, they even crossed the boundaries of color. Then it was ethnicity.
Minorities.
So, because they were going to be the mafia, so they outlawed sawed-off shotguns, different lengths of rifles, and the reason was they were domestic terrorism at the time. It was the big fear, and the laws kept going. It kind of slacked off until about '65. Then we had the civil rights, where the armed black man. Martin Luther King was great, but some other people were saying, we got to arm ourselves, and that just brought up a whole bunch of fear that we're going to wake up one day and there's going to be a guy with a sword over our throats. So it just kept getting worse. And then when Malcolm, Martin, Robert, and John F. Kennedy got killed, that just put the impetus for 1968 Gun Control Act. We got to do something, which will probably happen again here shortly because of all the crazies that are happening.
Well, how do you see, I mean, we just, as we're meeting tonight is the day that this terrible shooting happened in Connecticut at the schools, and you know, very quickly it became a debate about guns. And you're a preacher, we're actually sitting here in your church where you preach. How do you see, as someone who's pro-gun, peace as a man of color, what happened today, and if that should change the laws?
We had proof that evil exists in the world. Whenever somebody attacks a child, it's beyond societal, it's beyond communal, it's plain evil. something was broken. We have a lot of broken people walking the streets. And the bad part is we will take great pains to make sure that a dog is not left inhumanely somewhere, but we'll abandon a child. And that child will grow up broke, angry, hateful. And then it becomes a young adult, same way, and it just never gets better. And then become an adult that can actually do harm. There's been a long path of people we've left alone, and we get the situation we have today.
But, I mean, is there any, I don't see anything that could have been done. You had said to me earlier, you know, the victim in all this is going to be the children who get forgotten in the debate. It's
Yes.
a debate about guns.
We're gonna push it on some mechanical device. We're gonna blame the rifles, blame the pistols. Some mother lost her child. Some father lost their precious little daughter. I mean, it's gonna be some stuff that we're just gonna push to the side, and neither side should even bring up guns in this issue. It's about people. It's always about people. We have NFL people who, when the bright lights fade, they're depressed. When they get injured and they can no longer perform, they get depressed to the point where they want to drink themselves into slow death or run into a tree to try to speed it up. It's nothing new. Suicide is big everywhere. Culturally, you want to do it the fastest you know. So they take a tool they can find. In Japan and Asia, suicide rates off the charts. But nobody talks about that. They have to put nets outside of Apple to keep the employees from killing themselves from jumping off the side. We got sickness in the world. That's what it's about.